Hi guys, today we're going to be making a video about doing puzzles. Puzzles are basically just key positions where you have to find the best move. This is on chess.com, and if you saw the last video, I played 5 games. This time I will be doing puzzles. We might alternate between each other. So first of all, in this position, we could see that we're down material. Because if you count closely, black is up material by 2 points. So here we have to find checkmate, as you could see over here. Even though you're not going to see this in a game, you always have to look out for the opportunity to play this. Here we have something called a back rank checkmate. It's when the king has no more squares, and here you could also see that the bishops cannot block the king. So, and also these 3 pawns are keeping the king stuck on the back rank. If we check him on a8, he will have nowhere to go. So this is the correct move. This is once again another one, even though we're down even more material this time. It's still the same theme. No piece can block, so it's rook c8 checkmate. Here, there's a free rook, and this is also a check. You always have to be on the lookout for checks, captures, and threats. Here, this is a check and a capture, so you have to look at this. So, and since if we play anything else, we're definitely going to lose the game because we're down even more material than last time. So, if we taking this rook is the only chance we have. So this time the knight did get to block, but if we take this knight, which is also a capture and a check, nothing can block, and once again it is a back rank checkmate. So taking this knight is the correct move. Here it's once again the same theme. So this is a check, and there's 2 checks right now, but this just loses a bishop due to this. So we have to analyze this. After this, the king cannot move because these 2 pawns are blocking. So the bishop has to block. Then we could take the bishop and it's checkmate. Here, once again, there's 1 check, so we should analyze that first. He has to block because it's closed in, and we take the rook for checkmate. Here, as you can see, white is up an entire knight, but the king has only the back rank to go, and the rook is stuck. Our pawn right here does a great job of controlling these 2 squares. The knight is far away and is threatening to check us, but it's our move right now. The rook is stuck between this and this. So if we play rook to h1, which is the only check or capture, then this is a checkmate. This is once again a back rank mate. This is also a back rank mate, and this time it's with the queen, and nothing can block it once again. So here we're completely losing if we don't take the rook, which is also a check, and once again, there's nothing to block. if we played anything else, let's say this, then white would just be winning after maybe a check or two. So we have to take the rook. This is another back rank mate. I don't know why it's giving us so many, but once again, oopsies, that was a mouse slip. But if we play this, and black has to block with either this or that. So we take, and let's say they block with the rook after this, and that, we can play this and take. So rook c8 is the only move that wins here. Here, this is another checkmate in one. Even though we're down a lot of material, this is a classic mate, and since the king can only move on the back rank, because our king does a good job of protecting these three squares, rook e1, which is a check, is mate. Nothing can block. Here, rook e1 is once again checkmate. So this is a bit more tricky. Now there's a rook defending here, but still we have to analyze a check. Rook d8 you might think is mate, but no, because there's a b8 rook that can take. So what do we do now? Well, it's just simple, because we get to take the rook back, and it's checkmate once again. Here, this is a unique checkmate, because although you might think that the king can go here, and of course we're going to take the rook, this is a queen. So once we play this, it will also control these. It will control these squares. And since there's two pawns blocking and no piece can go to f8, or no piece could take the queen, then queen takes c8 is the correct move here. Once again, we're down 2 points of material, but white just hung a rook, and this is once again back rank mate. Now, white thought this was back rank mate, probably, but you might think it is, but it's not, because first we could play that, but that would be a bad move because white could just take, and that's mate. So this is correct move because white just hung their queen in danger. As you could see here, white should have played this instead of that, because this move does not hang a queen. We're either gonna go here, here, or here, but either way, the white queen will just chomp, chomp, and chomp. For example, this, and that, and then that. Okay, that's next puzzle. Now, we're down a lot of material here, but this is once again back rank mate. This is a unique position because, well, not really, but we're actually not down material here. Instead, but we have a lot of space, and it's two rooks versus a rook and knight. We're basically down in exchange, but we're not down material once again. So, let's see. It says checkmate is coming. So, let's see where the king can go. Once again, only the back rank. this pawn protects these two squares, and this pawn is in the way. So, and we could give a check by going rook a8, and there is nothing to take the rook or escape or block. So rook a8 is checkmate. Here, this might not seem like checkmate, but if you look closely, the king cannot actually go anywhere, because let's say we went here and then the king tried to go here. There's actually a bishop over here covering the square. So, and this pawn on g2 is also in the way of the king. And since there's nothing to block, rook f1 is also checkmate. For some reason, all these things are back rank mate. White is attacking our knight right now, but we could just give a check, and then he blocks, then you take with the rook. So, if you could see here, well, black missed a free rook on e1, but maybe he was trying to get Luft, which is another word for space in German. So, but the only problem is that there's a bishop aiming at b7. So, after this, where could the king go? Only here. And because the pawns are here and the bishop controls this entire diagonal. So, and we have to look for checks. So, rook e8 is checkmate because the king can't escape and nothing can block or take the rook. Now, this is not mate just yet, but we should always calculate it. So, if we go here, white has to block because of these three pawns over here. And then we can take the bishop. If they block with the rook, we take the rook. Then our rook is on d1. They go rook e1, and then we take the rook, and that's checkmate. Here, rook takes e8 is the only move to win because black has to block, obviously. The king's cornered, and then we just take the rook. So here, black is doing okay. Much better, actually, because you could play this. But now, seems like white was trapping black, because after he takes, now we have to take the rook, because wherever the queen blocks, let's say here, 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 we go here, here, or here. And then that's checkmate because of these three dudes. So, black just blundered their rook, and this is also once again back rank mate. First, I'm trying to change the theme of this. Okay, I don't really know how to. Okay, this is not back rank mate. Now, black is up 1 point, and he looks like he's about to promote this. We also have a pretty advanced passed pawn over here. But if we push the passed pawn, he could just go here, which stops the promotion. Let's say we promote into anything, he just takes. So, and let's look for captures now, because there's not a single check. So, if you saw this, then good job, because we have to take the rook. Let's see what happens after this. Black could play h2 and try promoting, First of all, the knight has already covered the square. But we could also be safe and cover the square ourselves. Stand on the square, I mean. After this, we're completely winning because of our passed pawn and our 2 extra pieces. So we take the rook, and that's the best move. Now, here, once again, we have to take the rook because that's back rank mate. White was definitely winning here, but he took the bishop and blundered the rook. Here, this is a funny one because all of Black's pieces basically, except this one, on the back rank. After this move, Black's king is completely smothered right now. It can't move anywhere. So, and the rook is also not defended once. So if we go here, that's checkmate. Also, you have to take note that maybe you thought that this would be possible, but we have this rook on e1 that's defending our rook after we take the rook. So rook takes e8 is mate. Once again, it's another one. This is not exactly called a back rank mate. But the problem is that, let's see, Black's king can only go here and here once again. The rook is in the Black king's way. And even though you can see the knight's pinned to the king, it still does the job of covering these squares. So, and rook c8 is a check, and nothing can block or take. So this is checkmate. Now, here the material is completely equal, but we have a lot of space on the king side, as you could see. So, and the Black king is once again trapped on the back rank. If we could give a check, that would be check on the back rank, that would be mate. And here, the pawn covers these squares, and this pawn right here is in the way. So this is checkmate. I'm trying to change the puzzle's themes, but looks like this is all we're getting. This is checkmate once again because if we take, Black can only block, and it's just a matter of time before we take both of the pieces. Once again, we have to take the rook because there's just no other move, and we're down a lot of material. So this is also a check, and it's going to lead to back rank mate again. Here, this is not mate just yet, but as you can see, there's a rook piling up on the other rook. Here, there's two attackers on that rook, and only one defender. So this means that taking and taking back is mate. This is once again checkmate because we could just take the rook. So at this point, you probably understand the concept of back rank checkmate. And if you don't, then that's okay because you could just watch it again. But there's this feature on chess.com called custom puzzles, and you could pick the theme you get. I hope this works. So maybe we could I do not know why it says we failed 19. Maybe we could do some of this. So, once again, it's another one. Here, you could see that the king and it's actually equal material, but black has double pawns. But this doesn't matter in this case because if you noticed, these two pieces are on the same file. And we have a rook, and that goes vertically and horizontally, of course. We could attack both pieces, and since the king will be in check, he cannot save the bishop. So after we go here, which is a check and attacking the bishop, here we win the bishop, and it's an easily winning game. Here, they, I don't know, maybe tried to attack our bishop, but once again, you have to look for captures and threats. We have this move, rook d1, which pins the bishop to the king. But the problem is that white could just take our bishop. And then, even though this is a fair trade, this is definitely not winnable for black. White might be even winning. So, we have to look for other captures. Rook takes d5. Seems like it wins a pawn. But first you could just go here. And then but this bishop just hangs. And even though you might think you could go there, this defends the bishop. This might be a little confusing. The last capture is bishop takes d5, which is a check. You could see the rook and the king are on the same diagonal. That leaves the bishop with one job. The king is going to be in check, and it's going to have to move to d1. So after we play this, he's going to have to force to give up his rook because his king's in check. Here, this is a tricky one because it's right out of the opening, and it might look complicated because there's many pieces on the board. However, this time, it's actually with a knight because, well, forks are kinds of threats, and here you could see these two pieces aren't developed and are loose. This is an important concept is loose pieces drop off. This means that if a piece is not defended, it's weak. And then you should find ways to exploit that. So here, how do we attack both of these pieces? Well, if we could get a knight here, that would be nice. Bishop over here is not possible. And no need to save with any piece over here. So knight b6 is a good move, attacking both pieces, and you can't defend both. So he will be forced to give up one of them. Here they defended their bishop, but we have to take the rook because that's not defended. In this position, it's tricky because it might seem like they're attacking your bishop. So you might be tempted to trade. That's not a bad move, but you're missing a win. Here, once again, these pieces aren't loose, but this already has one attacker on it and one defender. If we could attack this piece with another piece and then attack another piece at the same time, let's say the queen, because the queen is very valuable. So how do we fork the queen and the bishop? Well, we could play the move knight b5, and then the queen's worth a lot, so we could take it. Here they plays the move knight e5, and this is harder because it doesn't look like we have a fork, right? Well, let's look at captures. this is no good because they could just take, and it might seem like we could go here, but then they just play bishop g3. The arrows are probably making it more confusing. Another capture is bishop takes d3. I'm not going to explain this one that deeply because after b takes d3, that's also the notation if a pawn takes. And then you take with a knight. Yes, that's true, you won a pawn, but your knight's going to be on c3, and that's in your opponent's territory. They could, what it's called, trap your knight. So then with the move queen c2, and I'll show you after we get this. So the only move left is knight takes c3, right? So they're definitely going to take back because they just lost a piece. After this, we get to take this. And the rook, and the king's once again is in check. Even though the rook is technically defended, the rook is worth less than the bishop. Rook is worth more than a bishop. So this is the correct move because we're going to win material. Now, just to show you, this does not win because this traps the knight. All these squares are defended, and these, no need to say. So let's take a look at this one. Queen f6 is probably your best try, and this, but this doesn't win because of this. So let's go into the next one. Here, the queen is kind of stuck, and the king is on c1. Usually, the king's on b1 or g1 in the middle game. So here, I'll give you a hint. These two pieces we're going to be forking. And we could do that by putting a knight here, a bishop here, or maybe even a queen here, or even a rook there, but that's never happening. So, and we could actually get a knight on e2. Since the knight is worth less than the queen, and the king will be in check, this is a good move. So by now you've probably understood both of these concepts, and if you haven't, you could look at them again. But there's one last theme, and it is discover check. Hopefully there are some. So let's look for captures again. First, one that there's a check, but this just loses a rook because of this later, and this just loses a rook because of that or that. And let's look at captures now. This is a capture, but white could take your rook back. And what could you do after that? Yeah, you lose a rook. So just for a brief example for this, you could take the rook, which is the last capture. And after the king takes, what do you do now? Well, we looked at forks earlier, and this happens, and this happens. Now the next concept is, well, I guess they didn't change the theme. Here, this is a free bishop. And it might seem like you're going to win a lot of material. Well, a piece is a lot. And you are going to win a piece, but not right after that. As you can see, we're actually down a piece if you count correctly. So, bishop takes c3 is the only move. Queen takes c3 is not that smart because a queen is worth more than a knight. And we might get 3 minor pieces for the queen for that because of this, but that's not good. So we have to play bishop takes c3, which is a check. Now, if they play queen d2, we take the queen, of course. And if they play king e2, we could either take the rook or take the knight. And taking the rook would definitely be better because a rook is better than a knight, usually. But in this case, it's rare because the knight is actually threatening this. But never mind of that. This is the correct move. After this, we could take, and we're forking this, this, and that. I said we're forking this because if they go here, we could take that. So we have to go here. And we have to take the knight, and this is a free knight. Now, we also, to end the day, we're gonna end with another back rank checkmate. And not really, because the king can go here and here right now. So what piece can cover diagonally and vertically and horizontally? The queen. And queen f8's actually the only good move, because if you go here or here, the king goes here. So queen f8 is checkmate because you can't block and the king can't move anywhere. Okay, guys, hopefully you understand these two concepts of puzzles we looked at today, forks and back rank checkmates. These are very common tactics in chess, and remember, you always have to look out for them. Checks captures threats, and you always have to be aware and be aware of tactics coming your way. You'll never know when there is one. So hopefully you guys understood this video. If not, you could watch it again. And see you all next time. Bye.